It is Monday on Daily Delivery. Michael Rand here, Patrick Reusse with me as well. Patrick, I've got a lot of stuff written down. You and I just jotted down, talked out a few things before we started. Decades of sports misery here in Minnesota. You wrote a column about that over the weekend. I've got a Phoenix Suns, their no-show in Game 7 written down. But Patrick, I knew there was one subject that was going to be more near and dear to your heart and to your ire than anything else, and that is the Byron Buxton plan. Didn't play a couple times over the weekend, didn't pinch hit in a key spot on Saturday. Twins trying to explain it Sunday. He played, he homered. When he plays, they're very good. When he doesn't play, they're not very good. And it's just going to be like this all year as he kind of manages this tendonitis in his knee, which, Patrick, is that an injury or is he hurt?
Well, that's it's soreness, I would say. I don't know. Let me put it this way. If it hadn't been for our outrage, some of us in the media and many fans on what it took place Saturday night, you know what? Our outrage was a success because we made them fess up on Sunday. They finally had to tell the truth of what in God's name is going on with this guy. They weren't going to tell us that they had this big master plan until we were all, I was watching that game and I was never so disgusted with a manager in my life when he's got his one guy. He's got poor Miranda. They don't send him up to hit for him, and they don't send him up to hit somebody else bad in that inning. And so, we're screaming and hollering on Twitter, and I'm trying to stir up the troops as much as I possibly can with this incredible ridicule I'm sending out. And it forced them. I actually talked to Dan Gladden I sent Gladdy a text and said, like, Saturday night, said, what is going on here? And he called me Sunday morning and said that he'd been heard that they have this plan. This is about 9:30. They have this plan to limit him to about 100 games. I said, you're crazy. Nobody be doing that. They'll see what they can, good kind of shape they can get him in. And then about an hour later, they were talking about it. Sue had a column on it this morning, and they were talking about that's their plan, to only play him 100 games, to limit him. And when they don't play him, they don't play him. So I don't even know why he's there. He might as well stay at the hotel or do something. If you're not, I guess if somebody, would Celestino would run into the center field fence and they'd have no outfielders left, maybe they'd go out and play him then. But congratulations to the fans and to the rest of us. We finally made them fess up with one of the most amazing things that has happened around here in sports. In my entire lifetime, I have never heard anything like this in my life, that we are going to have this guy on the team and even when he's capable of playing, we're going to put in, here's what's interesting about Saturday's rest day, Mike. He'd played 12 innings all week. He'd already had a couple of rest days because he didn't play, right?
Yes.
Apparently those were scheduled days to play, but he hadn't played. But how about this? You say, well, Buck, we had you scheduled off for Saturday, but since you didn't play Wednesday and Thursday, we figured, or Tuesday and Wednesday, we figure we'll let you play Saturday. Okay.
Could you pick up a shift, Byron? Could you pick up a shift?
Yeah, right. It's like you call it in being a cab driver, and I'm calling in, hey, 8 guys called in sick today. We need you, right? Something like that. But I don't know. He's now, there's some people thinking they're doing it to save money because of all the bonuses. That's not the reason, people. They presumably want to win baseball games, and their chances to do so increase by 25% when he plays, and statistically even more than that. So it's some theory that they came up with Now they're making it sound like they entered the season with this plan, aren't they? Isn't that what
Seems
you
like
read
it.
in?
Yeah,
But
seems like it.
he played the first 6 games of the year.
Right.
So I think it was the slide when he came up and limping around, and apparently they decided he had patella tendonitis after that slide. And so the plan had to come up, really be made during that week that he missed. He missed a week after that slide in the second base. I think it was a week, but it was 4, 5, 6 games.
Yeah.
And it was during that time that their geniuses, they're medical people, they're training people. This is not Doc Rock. I'm
No.
sure he endorses it, but because he loves not playing people. But but it was their medical people.
Yeah.
And if only they'd been so vigilant with Chris Paddock's elbow, maybe they wouldn't have given away Taylor Rogers. Are these the same geniuses who looked at the elbow that was injected with stem cell last September and said, looks fine to us. Go ahead and give him $6.5 million and Taylor Rogers for this guy who might be able to make 4 starts for you. Are these the same geniuses who have now come up with the Buxton plan? I don't know, but I'm glad that we all raised hell on Saturday. So they made it. We made them admit what they were doing on Sunday.
Take a playcation to Mystic Lake for 24/7 gaming, fun restaurants and bars, and luxurious hotel rooms. And join Club M to bask in the rewards. Follow the lights to Mystic Lake, where every day is play day.
I want to know if you get into a tie game in extra innings and Buxton's the last position player, but it's a scheduled off day, do they have to send like Rocco out like to shrug like Bud Selig did at the All-Star game? Say, nope, game's got to end in a tie. Sorry, we got nobody left. I know Byron's over here, but we can't do it.
Well, Saturday night was an indication. I mean, they had him he didn't have his jersey on. Did you know that? He had a T-shirt on. He had the long sleeve T-shirt on. He didn't have his jersey on. So you're playing with 25. You're playing with a 3-man bench on those nights. Apparently, as I said, he's probably there. And if you absolutely run out of players, you would send him upstairs and have him get in his uniform and loosen up, and maybe he'd be like the pitcher that you have go up there and stand there and take 3 pitches because you just a lot of
right,
because you're afraid he might get on base. But it's a plan that the geniuses have devised, and we now know that the playing 100 games is their target. And again, I don't buy the fact that they entered the season with this plan. But maybe as an alternate plan, maybe they said, okay, Byron, if you can stay healthy, we're going to play you 130 games. But if you get hurt early on, then we're going to downgrade it. And so this is what they're doing. And it certainly gives people less incentive to go to ball games.
Well, yeah.
People Saturday night, things are so bad for them right now as far as selling tickets that I wasn't at the game Saturday, but I had a couple of people say, hey, they got a nice crowd tonight. It was 22,000.
Right.
They've only had 4 crowds. I didn't see yesterday. It probably was 20 yesterday too. I didn't see it, but the 22,000 is a good crowd on Saturday night, a gorgeous night. You just want a game, and people show up, and he doesn't play, and then he stands there and watches the whole game leaning against. That's another thing. You should tell him to stop leaning against the fence. Don't let us see him. Make him sit back in down in the corner, so it's not so obvious when people look into the dugout that he's not available. But it's I don't know, Mike. You've been at it a while. I've been at it forever. I can't remember anything like this in my life, that them telling you early in any kind of a season that, Kirk Cousins, he's got this little tweak in his knee, so we're only going to play him 13 games.
Right.
that what we're going to do? I said this was the Randy ratio, only the opposite. Less usage, but it was the Randy. We were announcing ahead of time how often we're going to play somebody. So I don't know. It's a goofiest thing. He's so damn good.
Yes.
And to do this to him, to make him become a figure of public ridicule is shows how this club is right now. They're so screwed up. To me, it's unbelievable that some of the stuff they're doing. Every day I see Taylor Rogers out there.
Oh man,
another save and getting people out. And I had a source from the Cleveland Guardians tell me that Tito Francona was absolutely blown away when he heard about that trade, because Cleveland hates facing Taylor Rogers.
Everybody does. He's a really good pitcher. He's a really good pitcher.
And he was the guy that they had no chance against.
Sure.
Yes, they're down there in spring training in Arizona, and the Twins make the trade, and then they see him in spring training, because he's down in Arizona, and it just blew Cleveland's mind that they would make that trade. That I don't know.
Blows my mind. Yeah.
It's you think they're bright. They're pretty good guys. They got thousands of them running around making these decisions, and then they do just asinine things. I still can't get over the fact that they hit more home runs than any team in baseball history, and then went out in the offseason and spent $92 million on a home run hitter.
Josh Donaldson.
When they needed pitching. So they've done some things that have just really been confusing to me. And, that said, I like Ursula. That was a good trade.
Sure.
Getting rid of Donaldson.
Right.
I still like the Correa thing, even though, he's missing a week. He's had a lot of injuries, and he's missing a little more time with the bad finger than we thought he was going to. But, this is, if he plays 100 games, you can't win. Okay.
I don't think so.
You can't win with him. And especially if 20 of them are going to be as a DH.
Yes.
He helps you as a DH, but he makes a difference.
Yes.
As what he's a center fielder. So anyway.
Here's the full quote from Falvey. So we did recognize that he hasn't played over 100 games in a handful of seasons now. Our view was, what's the right target between 100 and 162 that we want to get to? Now, Buxton has played 23 out of the 35 right now. That's my math. Just did a quick look. That means he's on pace for about 106 right now. Now, if he starts stringing more games together and ends up playing more like 125, you could live with that. But it's the 100 number that sticks out, and the idea that they're telling us beforehand that they've got this plan. They're not going to. It doesn't even feel like it's necessarily dictated by how he feels in the moment. Yep. They're going to rest him no matter what, because they don't want something invisible to get worse.
Yes, that's it. That's the whole thing. It's the okay. They got a calendar apparently down there. Now they've told us about these scheduled days off before with other players too, right? We had him for a scheduled days off, but nothing obviously like this. But yeah, they got a calendar. Well, Mike, it's obvious that they got dates circled on the calendar because they didn't play him Saturday when he'd already missed 2 games last week. So it wasn't, it was why it was a scheduled day off when he'd only played 12 innings all week. I have no idea, but that's, that's the way they're going to, that's just having too many cooks in the kitchen right there. I think Rocco's got nothing to do with this decision. He's certainly endorsed it. He's all in, but it's not, he's getting the calendar and told when he can't play this guy. To me, that's the way it looks to me, that he's, that it's coming from upstairs, and it's coming from their medical people, their training people, with the approval of Falvey. So
and He did play yesterday, like we said. He homered. They won 2 out of 3 from the Guardians. And your guy Pagan had a 10-pitch save yesterday. 1 inning, 10 pitches.
It was kind of disappointing. He didn't walk the plank like he has, but maybe he got his head straightened out and decided that because his reputation when he came here was lots of walks.
Yep.
No, lots of strikeouts, very few walks, lots of home runs that he gives up. That his big flaw is home runs, but he was a strike thrower for the most part. He didn't have many walks, and then that's why when he's out there just messing around, walking everybody. Supposedly he's a good guy, kind of a character, and pretty level-headed. But well, that would certainly help if he decides that he can pitch without putting 9 guys on base every time. It would help, but that bullpen needs help. How many games is Caleb Thielpar going to pitch in?
Yeah, really.
Now that he's your only lefty,
right?
I mean, that's another thing. That's another thing about the Taylor Rogers trade. They had no lefties.
I know.
Yeah, it's I don't know. They're we all thought the Central was going to be improved, and it might be the worst it's ever been.
It's terrible. I mean, they're the only team over 500 right now. They're 3 games clear of anybody else at 20-15. And they got absolutely run by the Astros, just like you said they would. What was the final combined final? 21-3 in that series.
Yeah.
But now they got a bunch of easy games again, right? If we got like Oakland, then a whole bunch against Detroit and Kansas City.
Yeah, that's true. Now, I still think when they go to play these teams, they're very mild favorites against anybody that they play because their starting pitching's not that good. Now, what was comforting was Joe Ryan was good again yesterday after 2 shaky games. But they're going to break out. Okay, they're playing Oakland, but they're going to break out Dylan Bundy Tuesday. You think they're favored over Oakland? I don't know who Oakland's playing, pitching or anything.
Right.
But this guy's not going to get to the finish line. Archer's not going to get to the finish line. They're sending out. Archer's averaged 11 outs per start. 11
That's not good.
No, I mean they're starting pitching in Paddock because they already put Paddock on the 60-day. So Winder, I still like him, but he was not good against Oakland. But their starting pitching is still a problem. Their bullpen's still a problem, and they're going to win. They have a really good year, and Buxton plays 100 games. They're going to win 85. Is that going to be enough? Maybe, but I don't. They're not going to win over 84, 85 games maximum. And right now, I still don't think when they start playing the Yankees and these people, they're still. I wouldn't bet my life savings on them being 500. So
they got this after this easy stretch. They got 9 against like Toronto, Yankees, and Tampa Bay, and that'll tell us a little more than what we just learned against Houston, which was that they were not ready to compete against another good team. I know they took 2 out of 3 from Tampa earlier this year, which was a better series for them. But I don't know.
Pete told me, I was surprised that he claims that they've sold 11,000 equivalent season tickets. If that's the case, I said the walk-up window, but I don't even think they have a walk-up window anymore, do they? You got to do it all online.
The walk-up app, last-minute apps.
App. Yeah, nobody's using the walk-up app. They're getting, they're in trouble with the fans. I mean, baseball's in trouble, and they're in trouble, and I don't know what's going on, but there's the level of enthusiasm for this team right now is pretty minimal. Now, it could have been that the Wolves and the Wild were both in action, and there was other things, but I just think baseball's in trouble around here and in a lot of places, except New York and LA, where it's killing it. But anyway, go Buck. We'll see you. They should put a sign out in front of the ballpark. There used to be all these time game today. They should have a big sign that says Buxton today.
Even if they did get to the postseason this year, which I think is entirely a possibility, like we said, based on the division, would Byron Buxton play every game in the playoffs, and would it be enough for them to break the curse of 18 straight playoff losses, which you mentioned as part of what we're talking about now is about 17, 18 years of playoff misery in the Twin Cities, not just losses, but the no-shows from a lot of these teams that have happened along the way. That was that was your column you wrote over the weekend. It's online today again, Monday, StarTribune.com. Man, it's pretty sobering when you lay out all the facts and just how bad these teams have been in the playoffs. And again, Wild and Wolves go out quickly this year. I wouldn't say those were the worst performances by those teams by any stretch, but it's part of this overall thing we've got going in this market where, aside from the Lynx last decade, nobody's done a damn thing in the playoffs, and it's terrible.
Yeah, I don't believe in the Minnesota jinx or anything that there's something in the water or something like that. It's just, it's just, we've had teams that, of course, the postseason, the whole postseason misery includes the Wolves not getting there for 13 years, which is the third longest streak in NBA history.
It's hard to do when 8 teams in the conference make the playoffs.
Yes, it is. You got that one. And then when they do show up, they run into a 2 seed that they can beat. They can, when you see them, they had a very good plan for most games for stopping Ja Morant. And then they do something. No team had blown, as we've said 100 times, no team had blown a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter more than once in a series, and they did it 3 times.
Impressive.
And actually, they should get credit for doing it 4 because they blew the one game twice. Game 3 is the most historical law. Well, it's not 41 to donut or anything, but it's incredible that you blew it twice. So you got that, and then you got the Wild. That's 6 straight times they've been in the playoffs. They haven't gotten out of the first round. This is the best team they've ever had by far. No comparison. They got their best player ever, Kaprizov. And I guess what's terrible is their worst performance was their last one.
Yes.
You lose at home, game 5, disappointment. You're going to St. Louis. You're probably going to get beat, but to not give yourself a chance and to me, I watched most of it. I turned it off a couple of times in the second period when it was getting lopsided, but they came out for about 5 minutes at the start of the third period. They got a goal. They looked like they were, at least involved and going to battle to the finish, but they basically stunk it out in the last game. And that's become the pattern for Minnesota sports teams. Since, the easy thing as I wrote in there was to go back to the 41-0 thing, but really in 0-2, the Twins, it wasn't a run, but they knocked off the Moneyballers as big underdogs. And then they got beaten in Anaheim, but that's the last series they won. But
they got rally monkeyed.
Yeah. You can't look back at that team and say it was a disappointment. And then 0-3, you got the Wild making the great, the only run they've made. And they were with a collection that's, as I pointed out, is about half as talented as this group. And then 0-4, you had the Wolves going to the conference finals and might have gotten further if Sammy Cassell hadn't gotten hurt. So you got 0-3, 0-2, 0-3, 0-4. And then, but the last what is it, 17 years now, 18. The only thing you can look back at boastfully is Brett Favre almost taking him to the Super Bowl, and with that very stout performance in New Orleans when they beat the hell out of them. I mean, you can't look back at that team with any ridicule, but since then, that's the only thing, because the Minneapolis Miracle was followed by one of the most underrated no-shows in franchise history. You're going there, and if you win against this team that has Nick Foles as its quarterback, you're going to have the Super Bowl in your home arena.
Yes.
You score right away and get humiliated. So it has been hard work if you're looking for success. And you know, as this has happened, the fans, we have a whole element of the fans that are now focused on the only thing that matters is championships.
Right.
The only thing that matters. Well, that's not true. You know, if you can, you know, if the Wolves beat, you know, Memphis this year and give somebody a, you know, go to 6 games with Golden State, you look back and say, oh, hey, that was a hell of a heck of a year, right?
Yes.
The Wild beat St. Louis and go in there and play 6-7 games against Colorado, even though you hope that this could be the Cup year. You say, oh, okay, that was okay. But there's nothing that compares with losing 18 straight.
That's unbelievable. 18 straight. And
it's in baseball. In baseball, where the Phillies just went out and won 3 out of 4 from the Dodgers in LA. It's baseball. Anything happens, right? Anything can happen. And you have lost 18 straight playoff games. It's incredible. It's a, you know, and people say, well, it's, you know, they're different players. Yes, they are. That's what makes it incredible. It's different players. It goes back to the second game of the division series in 2004.
Yeah.
But you know where it really goes back to?
What?
Juan Cone giving up the home run to Ruben. That's where it goes back to, because they lose 2 and they win 1, they lose 2 and 3, but they're going to win 4. They're 4 runs ahead in the 8th inning at home with the Metrodome crowd screaming, and then you're going to go to New York. And I can't remember where they had lined up to pitch, but they had a chance. But I remember
wouldn't have been Johan, because Johan pitched game 4, right?
Yeah. But I can't remember I don't know what they're going to do. But the Yankees might not have one of their good starters. I don't know. But you know, you win that game, you're going to New York for game 5, and we remember. I mean, that was a good team. That 2004 team.
Oh yeah.
And that's where, you know, Juan Rincon, who had been unhittable, he was taking vitamins that year, as it turned out. But he was, didn't he get popped for steroids there after the PEDs?
I can't remember.
Yeah, he did. But that home run he gave up to Ruben Sierra was like, they haven't won or come really close since, hardly. So it was that the when was the Nathan Slider ride? When was that? What year was that? That was later?
That was the one where he hit in extra innings when Nathan pitched the 3rd inning after getting 2 innings. That was game 2. That was game 2 of 2004.
Yeah, that was Nathan. A-Rod hit one up there on the railroad tracks. He killed it. He threw him a slider and then he killed it. But it was I mean, that's what it all started for them. 18 in a row. Amazing. Yeah, it is. It's not a jinx. It's not a hex. It's not something that we're doing wrong here as human beings in Minnesota. It's just that, you know, they've all managed to not win when it counted. And, you know, God love the Knicks. I mean, the Lynx, they play in a 36-team league. I mean, in a 12-team league, and they play a half a season or less than a half a season. So I cannot count that as a major sports championship. It's you know, I know that's not politically correct, but it's not a major league sports championship. It's a nice sports championship, but 4 of them. And it was, you know, if you're a fan, it was fun to have that. But there's 4 sports that make you a major league town. And then those teams for 18 years have been terrible in the postseason, or even not getting to the postseason.
None of them, though, Patrick, have had a no-show on the level of the Phoenix Suns on Sunday night. What was that? I looked up. I wasn't watching it. I was just kind of following it on Twitter as we were doing some bedtimes for the kids, trying to watch the clips a little bit last night. And I saw 87-47 in the 3rd quarter at home, game 7 against Dallas.
Well, I don't think anybody wants to directly point at Chris Paul, but I watch the TNT postgame shows quite often if I can, especially at this time of year, because those guys are insane. But they were talking about who did Phoenix played Denver in the first round, did they? Who did they play?
No, Denver played
Golden State.
Denver played Golden State. Phoenix played New Orleans and got taken pretty far in that series too.
Pretty far. Yes, it was New Orleans. And New Orleans' whole strategy, I heard him talking, was to wear down Chris Paul, right? They would go after him defensively. They'd go after him offensively, and they really went after him defensively, and they gave him no moments of peace, right? And their idea was, and then he'd had like 3 straight clunkers, and then he had the 14 for 14 right?
In the closeout game. Yeah,
in the closeout game. But obviously the same thing was done to him by Dallas, and he was non-existent the last 4 or 5 games. They just got to him because he's too dang old and to take as big a burden as he did, and they just wore him down and turned him into a non-asset. I'm not sure Booker was 100% healthy either, and they could not stop Doncic, who, now that he's not fat, might be the best player in the league. He's unbelievable. You know who loves it? Charles. Charles just goes on and on.
Yeah.
And before this, early in this series, he was on this guy, and he was talking about him this whole series and how they can't stop him, and they had no answers for him.
No,
and he was great. What an odd series. There was like 5 30-point games in it, and it had been whoever was at home, right, was kicking the living out of the other. But then yesterday, I bet you that Mark Cuban private airplane was fun last night. Huh? Wow.
Right.
He was having a good old time. But yeah, that was amazing. Yeah. Absolutely amazing. And the Bucks, who I was kind of rooting for the Bucks, they Boston. There's another one. I'd like to go back to like 20 games into the Celtics season, and my buddies, the Boston newspapers, what they were writing about the Celtics.
Oh,
and
yeah.
What a mess this is. And they can't, Tatum and Brown cannot play together because they play the same position and everything.
Right.
And you know what? Since about game 25, they've been unbelievable.
Yeah.
And they put it on the Bucks again yesterday. The NBA's had some great series, but way too many blowouts.
Yeah, it's been weird.
It has. They've alternated back and forth, but way too many blowouts.
Now Dallas, Golden State in the West, and now Miami, Boston in the East. Man, you could pick a name out of a hat at this point. I mean, I think Boston's probably as good as anybody, but Golden State, Dallas is going to be, that's the 3 and the 4 seeds. That's an interesting series. I mean, NBA's got more parity now than I think they've had. And I think it's because LeBron's gotten older. They don't have the one guy right now. They've got a lot of guys who can carry a team right now.
This is about 3 years in a row that it's been, well, since when did Toronto win it? 20 or 19? Since Toronto won.
Yeah, I think that was 19. I think it was 19.
Yeah, if they won it. It's been much more unpredictable, which made it a lot more fun. That the fact that the NBA's problem always has been imbalance, and you still have that to a degree, but you have you have Memphis as a threat. You had Toronto, which is not a major market when it comes to basketball because people don't want to go up there and pay Canadian taxes.
Right.
They have a hard time keeping their team together. And, you've had unusual winners, and that's good. That's good for it. And Jimmy, even with our bad memories of Jimmy Butler, they get down to the end, and he leads them with 32 and gets them into the semifinals. So gets them into
shouts down the tunnel. Tobias Harris over me.
Yes, right.
How about that? That's such a Jimmy thing to do, isn't it?
Yes, it is. You took Tobias Harris over me. Yeah. What a beauty. He's got to be 34 now, doesn't he?
I'll look. I don't think he's quite that old.
Doesn't he? He's getting there.
Yeah, maybe 32, 33. Let's see. 32 right now. He'll be 33 33 in September.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
I guess this is, maybe we should go back to the Buxton thing now and say, geez, load management has come to baseball. Huh? This is like they do this in the NBA, but of course not to this extent. But it's that was, I turned it on. I kind of was watching the other stuff and moving around, and I turned it on. I said, "What?" It was like 30 when I turned it over.
It was amazing.
It was amazing. Hey, one more thing: Edmonton, Calgary, first time since 1991. I was shy. They've been in the same division. They've been in the same conference. All those years. It amazed me that it had been 31 years since they played each other, and that was in the Smythe Division semis, which means the first round, right?
Yes.
Semis.
Yes.
They haven't played since the first round against each other in 1991. They got to be having fun up there because they're all Canada has left because the Maple Leafs choked again and got beat by Tampa Bay. And how about that for two hockey markets? Toronto, which has had a team since 1840, and Tampa, which is the powerhouse of Florida hockey, and Tampa goes up there and beats them. That has to drive Toronto people crazy. I bet the angst up there today is just off the hook, man.
You can see the Lakeville goalie almost stole that one for Dallas, though. He made 64 saves.
I saw 60.
64 was the official number on 67.
Really? When I at the box score last night and I tweeted it out, it was 60, but maybe I saw regulation because that's right. They only had him for 3 goals. So that was 4-3, right? That game
3-2.
3-2. Well, then the box I saw said 60 saves, but they gave him 64. Huh? Wow.
Yep. Unbelievable.
When was did he win a state title with one of the Lakeville?
I can't remember. He was with it was one of the Lakeville teams.
Boston U. He played at Boston U.
Yeah, he was awfully good, obviously, and he's been very good for them this year.
Well, last night it was that's what drives me crazy about that sport. And you know what was very unusual about this game is the team that got totally outplayed didn't win in overtime. Generally speaking, the team that stunk it out for three periods and somehow got into overtime, they're the ones that get the lucky goal.
And went in off someone's butt and then the game's over.
Though it was like from the side of the outside on the side of the head, it was the most unlikely shot to go in of the 25 I saw him face when I was watching in the third period and then overtime. So, but yeah, that was something. They got meanwhile Colorado's been
resting comfortably for a week,
sitting around vaping cigarettes, having the time of their lives, doing nothing. So it'll be that'll be interesting. But anyway, we're a week ago, we were talking about the Twins, and Houston came in here and beat them as bad as boys. Had a good club, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Houston. Oh man, I love that team, and they come in here and beat them as bad as they want to, and then they win 2 out of 3 against Cleveland. But we now here, the one last thing about the Twins, they do have a backup center fielder finally. So now if he's going to keep hitting, but fielding wise, he's good. And it's not Jake Cave and it's not Kepler moving out of position, and it's not, any of that other thing. They at least have a guy to put in the lineup. So, but
maybe this will be the team, Patrick, that breaks up
that wins a game. Wins a
playoff game.
We only That will be interesting to make the playoffs. We only have one goal for you, fellas. Win one. That's all we want. We just won. Okay, one. Just somehow somebody win. Joe Ryan, he'll win.
Joe Ryan, go win a game.
I think he'll win a game.
He would.
All right,
sir. Thank you.
Talk to you.